Welcome. You are about to embark on a journey that will fundamentally change the way you see time, action, and success. This isn't about productivity tips or complex systems. This is about one radical, life-altering truth. The speed and urgency with which you take action determines your destiny. For the last decade and a half, I've had the chance to step back and look at my life, my achievements, and my missed opportunities. It was an uncomfortable and eye-opening process that led me to one single, profound conclusion. I could have been 10 times further ahead, 10 times the wealth, 10 times the quality of life, 10 times the impact. Why wasn't I? The answer is simple, yet devastating. I waited. I waited for the perfect moment. I waited until I felt motivated. I waited for all the information. I waited until Monday. I waited for the economy to change. I waited for someone else to give me permission. That habit of deferral, of putting off the important action until tomorrow, was a silent, insidious thief that stole years of potential from me. If you're listening to this, you felt that feeling too. You know what it's like to look back at a critical moment, a business idea, a relationship, a financial investment, a skill you should have learned, and realize the cost of your delay. That cost is massive. It's not just the failure of the thing you didn't do. It's the compound loss of everything that action would have led to. Imagine this. You had an idea for an app 5 years ago. You planned it. You sketched it out. But you decided to wait until you had more money, or more time, or until you finished reading one more book on the topic. In the 5 years you waited, someone else launched a similar app. That single, immediate action you deferred didn't just cost you the app revenue. It cost you the expertise you would have gained, the team you would have built, the network you would have created, and the confidence you would have developed to tackle your next, bigger challenge. That's what I call the 10x regret. It's the gap between where you are today and where you should be, multiplied by the power of compounding time. It is a direct result of lacking a deep, unshakable sense of urgency. The lie we tell ourselves. We all fall for the greatest procrastination lie. I need to feel motivated before I act. We have been conditioned to believe that action is the result of motivation. We sit, we wait, we scroll, we consume, hoping that a surge of energy will suddenly hit us, propelling us into motion. But that's backwards. It's a total lie. Here is the truth. The core principle of this entire book. Motivation is the result of action, not the cause of it. Think about it. When you feel least like going to the gym, but you force yourself to put on your shoes and walk out the door, what happens 15 minutes into the workout? You feel a surge of energy, a sense of accomplishment, and a desire to finish strong. The motivation didn't start the run. The run started the motivation. When you have a massive, overwhelming project and you finally force yourself to tackle the smallest part of it, sending one email, writing one paragraph, making one phone call, you suddenly feel clarity and momentum. The motivation didn't begin the task. The action unlocked the momentum. Inertia works both ways. When you procrastinate, your mind finds more reasons to delay. This creates mental fog, indecision, and a destructive spiral of guilt. When you act, even minimally, your mind releases dopamine and creates a completion loop. This is the neurological foundation of motivation. Action creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence, and confidence fuels the next action. To escape the 10x regret, you must reject the motivation myth and embrace the urgency mindset. The urgency mindset defined. This mindset is simple. Do it now, and do it fast. It's the understanding that time is not a renewable resource, and that the quality of your life is directly proportional to your ability to execute quickly on your most important priorities. The people who are succeeding at a rate that seems impossible, the unstoppable ones, aren't necessarily smarter or more talented. They have simply mastered the art of speed and decisiveness. They make decisions faster. They move from planning to execution quicker. They launch, iterate, and course correct while others are still perfecting the initial draft. By the time the average person has finished planning, the person with the urgency mindset has already launched, failed once, learned, and is now on version 2.0. That small head start, executed consistently over years, is what creates the 10x result. They are too far ahead for anyone to catch up. The rest of this book will show you exactly how to cultivate this mindset, break the cycle of delay, and make the power of now your default operating system. We are going to stop waiting for permission, for perfect conditions, or for a bolt of inspiration, and we are going to start moving. The first step is simply acknowledging the cost of the wait. Let the 10x regret be the fuel, the fire under you that demands immediate change. Let's commit right now to changing your future, starting with the next step. Chapter 2. The Motivation Myth. Action before inspiration. In the last chapter, we confronted the brutal truth of the 10x regret, the massive cost of procrastination. Now, we must dismantle the single biggest mental barrier that keeps us trapped in that regret. The motivation myth. The myth sounds like this: I need to feel energized, inspired, and highly motivated to start a difficult task. We treat motivation like a magical gas that has to fill our tank before the engine of action can turn over. So we wait, scrolling through endless content, looking for that external spark. We believe that we must be in the perfect mood to write that proposal, call that client, or start that workout. But waiting for motivation is like waiting for a broken elevator to fix itself. It keeps you stuck on the ground floor, watching others effortlessly ascend to the top. The scientific truth: momentum is the real motivator. The reality is that momentum is the engine of motivation. When you begin a task, even a small, seemingly insignificant one, your brain initiates a powerful chemical cascade. When you successfully initiate an action, you write the first sentence, you put one item in the sink, you open the accounting spreadsheet. Your brain releases dopamine. This is the reward neurotransmitter. It doesn't just make you feel good. It is the molecule that reinforces habits and drives seeking behavior. Dopamine tells your brain, hey, that felt good. Do it again. We call this the completion loop. Action. You choose to start, even when you don't feel like it. Completion. Progress. You complete a small subtask or make noticeable progress. Dopamine. Reward. Your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine, creating a feeling of accomplishment and energy. Motivation. This feeling drives you immediately into the next action. Do you see the critical distinction? Motivation doesn't lead to action. Successful, fast action leads to motivation. This completely changes the way we approach difficult work. You no longer need to rely on fickle inspiration. You only need to rely on a repeatable system for micro-action. The 5-minute rule, the anti-procrastination trigger. If motivation follows action, then your only real goal is to get started. The way to defeat the overwhelming feeling of a large task is to shrink it down to a size that requires zero motivation to begin. This is where the 5-minute rule becomes your most powerful tool. When you face a task you are dreading, be it organizing your finances, writing a difficult email, or cleaning out the garage, you make a non-negotiable deal with yourself. Commit to working on it for only 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes of focused, distraction-free work. The task is no longer finish the presentation, which feels daunting. The task is now work on the presentation for 5 minutes, which feels easy. The magic is that once those 5 minutes are over, you will almost never stop. Why? Because the completion loop is already engaged. You have already overcome the inertia of rest. Your brain has already released that dopamine hit. You have momentum. The 5-minute rule is not a trick to sneak in work. It is a trigger designed to bypass the emotional resistance that kills urgency. It weaponizes the fact that a body in motion stays in motion. The smallest possible action, SPA. To make the 5-minute rule truly effective, you must identify the smallest possible action, SPA. This is the absolute minimum step you can take right now that pushes the project forward. An SPA must meet 2 criteria. It must be physical or immediately measurable. For example, think about the email is not an SPA. Open the email app and type the subject line is an SPA. It must take less than 2 minutes to complete. Here are examples of how to apply the SPA principle to common procrastination points. Dreading a big report? Your SPA is create the document and write the title, 30 seconds. Need to exercise? Your SPA is put on your running shoes, 60 seconds. Overwhelmed by bills? Your SPA is log into one bank account, 45 seconds. The goal is to stop thinking about the overall outcome and focus solely on initiating the very first, very smallest step. This is the key to unlocking true urgency. When you train your brain to execute the SPA the instant the task enters your mind, you stop waiting. You stop relying on motivation. You start building the unstoppable speed we talked about in Chapter 1. The people who are succeeding at a rate 10 times faster than everyone else are not driven by some superhuman level of motivation. They have simply mastered the art of starting quickly. They understand that 1 minute of action today is more valuable than 1 hour of planning tomorrow. So, the challenge for you right now is simple. Identify the task you are most avoiding today. What is the smallest possible action you can take on it? Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait for the right time. Idity of acting now. Not next hour, not tomorrow, and certainly not next week. The great enemy of the 10x life is not laziness. It is the comforting, destructive lie we tell ourselves that we have plenty of time. We are constantly subjected to the tyranny of tomorrow, a psychological delusion that convinces us that our future self will be better equipped, more energetic, and less busy than our current self. We mentally offload difficult tasks onto this idealized version of us who never seems to arrive. This delusion is reinforced by 2 critical psychological traps: the planning fallacy and Parkinson's law. Mastering urgency requires you to recognize and shatter both of them. Trap 1. The planning fallacy. The planning fallacy is our tendency to wildly underestimate how long it will take to complete a task, even when we have a history of similar tasks taking much longer. Think about the last time you estimated a project. If you are like most people, you focus on the perfect case scenario. No interruptions, instant cooperation from others, and every step going exactly right. You ignore your history of delays and unexpected problems. You focus on the specific details of the task, the inside view, rather than the brutal reality of past experience, the outside view. The planning fallacy is a dream killer because it gives you a false sense of security. You tell yourself, I'll start that project tomorrow morning. It will only take me 2 hours. When tomorrow morning arrives, you lack the urgency, because in your mind, the project is still small and easy. Then, as it inevitably takes 6 hours, you are thrown into a reactive panic. The urgency solution. Assume the 2x rule. To defeat the planning fallacy, you must stop relying on optimistic prediction and start relying on immediate execution. Assume every project will take at least twice as long as you initially think. Knowing that time is tighter than you feel it is forces you to launch into action now. Don't spend time replanning. Spend time starting the execution immediately. When you start now, you expose the true complexity sooner, giving you a massive time advantage to course correct. Trap 2. Parkinson's Law. The second and more common trap is Parkinson's Law, which states that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. If you give yourself a week to write a simple one-page memo, it will take you a week. You will spend time over-researching, agonizing over font choices, and waiting for the perfect sentence to appear. The actual complexity of the task hasn't changed. Your time constraint has simply loosened, and your efficiency has plummeted. The work swells to consume the available time, regardless of its real value. This is the silent killer of productivity. When you say, "I'll do it Monday," you are giving that task 3 extra days to become complicated, intimidating, and slow. You kill your own speed before you even begin. The urgency solution. Set harsh, self-imposed deadlines. The way to crush Parkinson's Law is to introduce radical, artificial constraints. If a task should take 1 hour, give yourself 45 minutes. If an email should take 5 minutes, give yourself 2. This forces your brain to prioritize efficiency and focus. It engages your primal sense of urgency, the same urgency that allows you to clean your entire house in 20 minutes when you hear a car pulling into your driveway. That pressure forces you to discard the irrelevant, eliminate friction, and focus solely on the minimum viable completion. The decisive filter. Urgent versus important. When you operate with urgency, you also need a system to ensure you're applying that speed to the right things. Not all action is created equal. The truly successful are not just fast, they are fast on the right things. You must differentiate between what is urgent and what is important, and then apply your act now philosophy accordingly. Urgent tasks are those screaming for attention now, usually driven by other people, emails, unexpected calls, minor crises. They feel immediate and demanding. Important tasks are those that contribute to your long-term goals, your 10x life vision, and your personal mission. Strategic planning, skill development, building a product. The tyranny of tomorrow pushes the important tasks into quarter 2 or someday, while the tyranny of the urgent fills your now with low-value tasks. You end up being busy without being effective. Your decisive filter. Act now on the important. Important and urgent. The crisis. Act now. Important and not urgent. The 10x builder. Act now. This is the quadrant that creates your future. These are the tasks you must schedule and protect with an aggressive, immediate start date. Don't let them drift to later. Get the spa done today. Urgent and not important. The distraction. Delegate or delete now. If it must be done now but doesn't move your 10x life forward, you must ruthlessly eliminate it from your own action list. Not important and not urgent. The waste. Delete now. The key is that the 10x life is built in quadrant 2, the important, not urgent tasks. Your secret weapon is to inject urgency into these tasks, moving them from schedule for next week to start in the next 5 minutes. The future you want is not built on what you plan to do, but on what you do now. The power of 10x momentum belongs only to those who reject the false promise of tomorrow and commit to the speed of today. Stop waiting for the perfect day. The only perfect day for action is today. Chapter 5. The Decisive Mindset. Rapid Decision-Making. We have established the power of taking action now and executing tasks faster. But both of those pillars rest on a third foundational element: the ability to make rapid decisions. Indecision is the silent killer of urgency. It's the friction point that causes your entire system to seize up. When you delay a decision, you don't just lose time on that single choice. You halt the momentum of every action that depends on it. Think about a crucial business move, a necessary conversation, or even choosing a software provider. If you spend 3 weeks debating the perfect answer, the cost is not 3 weeks of planning. It's 3 weeks of lost compounding action. Your competitors move ahead, the market shifts, and your anxiety rises. The time spent debating is often more destructive than making a slightly imperfect choice and moving forward. The 10x secret: decisions are revocable, time is not. The most successful people are not those who are right 100% of the time. They are the people who can be right 70% of the time, make a decision in a day, and course correct quickly on the 30% of mistakes. They understand the fundamental reality: you can always change a bad decision, but you can never recover lost time. The goal is to cultivate a decisive mindset, a state where inaction becomes more uncomfortable than rapid action. The cost of analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is the state of overthinking a decision until you are completely frozen. It happens when you try to gather 100% of the information before acting. The problem is that in the real world, 100% of the information is rarely, if ever, available before a deadline passes. If you wait until you are absolutely certain, you will only make the decision when the window of opportunity has slammed shut. The urgency solution: the 70% rule. Adopt the 70% rule for high-stakes decisions. When you have gathered about 70% of the information you think you need, and you have a clear direction, you must force yourself to decide and move. That last 30% of information usually takes 80% of the total decision-making time and provides only marginal value. By cutting it out, you save massive amounts of time and gain a massive speed advantage. Making the decision at 70% certainty is an act of confidence. It's a statement that you trust your instincts and, crucially, you trust your ability to adjust. You're not committing to perfection, you're committing to momentum. Pre-made rules: outsourcing your brain power. To make decisions faster, you must simplify the process. Many of the thousands of choices you make every day, from what to eat to what to wear to how to respond to a standard email, drain your mental energy and slow you down when the big decisions arrive. The key is to create pre-made rules for low-level decisions. These rules remove thinking from the equation and automate your choices, preserving your mental bandwidth for 10x priorities. Decision area example of indecisive behavior. Pre-made rule: rapid decision. Morning routine: spending 15 minutes deciding what to wear/eat. Wear one of 3 color-coordinated outfits. Eat the same high-protein breakfast every day. Email response: rereading an email 6 times before replying. If an email can be answered in under 2 minutes, answer it immediately. The 2-minute rule. Otherwise, schedule a time to answer later. Hiring/outsourcing. Debating budget versus experience forever. Always hire the best person I can afford, even if it feels expensive. Speed of execution trumps small cost savings. Export to sheets. These rules are not about restriction. They are about conservation of decision energy. They allow you to apply the full force of your decisive mindset to the choices that genuinely impact your 10x trajectory. The decisive action test. The one-way door. When faced with a decision, you must categorize it based on its permanence. Not all decisions carry the same weight, and you should not treat them as such. Two-way door decisions. Revocable. These are decisions that can easily be undone or reversed without significant cost. Most choices fall here. You can change your website color. You can reschedule a meeting. You can launch a test product. For two-way door decisions, default to fast. Choose an option, move, and reserve the right to change your mind next week. One-way door decisions, irrevocable. These are choices with severe, long-term consequences that are almost impossible to undo. E.g., selling your company, making a massive non-refundable capital investment, major location change. For one-way door decisions, apply the 70% rule, but with a slightly higher certainty threshold and mandatory input from trusted advisors. But even here, prolonged indecision is often worse than a calculated risk. The key to the decisive mindset is recognizing that the constant stream of small two-way door decisions is where your speed advantage is lost. By making the default choice action rather than delay, you move from a reactive position to an unstoppable, proactive one. Embrace the speed of your decisions. Trust your competence to correct course. Reject the illusion of perfection. Your speed today is determined by the commitment to choose now, not by the clarity of tomorrow. Chapter 6. The Unstoppable Flow. Building the Urgency Habit. We've covered the philosophy of action, the psychology of motivation, and the necessity of rapid decision-making. Now, we must translate these concepts into a daily, non-negotiable routine. Urgency is not a temporary burst of energy. It must be an ingrained habit that powers your daily life. The unstoppable person is not constantly fighting to be urgent. They have built systems that make urgency their default state. This is about removing the option to delay, making instant execution the path of least resistance. The 3-2-1 rule. The activation trigger. The single most difficult moment of any task is the moment of initiation. It's the gap between knowing what you should do and actually starting it. When you feel that resistance, you need a reliable, immediate trigger to force launch. I call this the 3-2-1 rule. When you identify a task, especially one you are resisting, you immediately start counting backward from 3. $3, 2, 1, launch. At launch, you must physically start the smallest possible action, SPA, we discussed in Chapter 2. You don't think about it, you don't plan the launch, you simply move. If you need to make a tough call, 3, 2, 1, launch, dial the number. If you need to get out of bed, 3, 2, 1, launch, feed it the floor. If you need to open a document, 3, 2, 1, launch, click the file. This technique works because it bypasses the emotional and logical centers of your brain that try to negotiate delay. It turns a conscious choice into a physical, programmed reflex, forcing you to overcome the inertia of rest before the resistance can fully form. The 3-2-1 rule is your personal ignition switch for the unstoppable flow. Use it dozens of times a day until it becomes second nature. The power hour. Scheduled aggressive urgency. We previously discussed the tyranny of Parkinson's law, where work expands to fill available time. We beat this by using time constraints. To build a core habit of urgency, you must schedule a block of time daily where you apply maximum, aggressive constraint. This is your power hour. It is a fixed 60-minute block every day, preferably first thing in the morning when your focus is highest. During this hour, you work on only one 10x priority task, a task that is important but not urgent, Quadrant 2. All distractions must be eliminated. Phone off, door closed, email minimized. The goal is not to finish the task, but to make 60 minutes of the most intense, fastest progress possible. The Power Hour creates two essential habits. Prioritization. It forces you to identify your single most important 10x task for the day. Maximal speed. By knowing you only have 60 minutes for this deep, difficult work, you apply extreme urgency. You cannot afford to check social media or wait for the perfect sentence. You are forced to execute at your fastest possible speed. This hour trains your brain to equate deep work with speed. It generates an immense amount of high-quality momentum that carries through the rest of your day, making every subsequent task feel easier and faster by comparison. Zero inbox, zero delay. Applying urgency to communication. Communication, email, texts, messages, is a place where momentum often dies a slow death. Letting messages pile up creates mental clutter, slows down your network, and allows other people's lack of urgency to dictate your pace. The goal is to move towards zero delay in communication. When you touch an incoming piece of communication, you have 4 immediate choices. Do it now. If the response takes less than 2 minutes, the 2-minute rule, execute the response immediately. This clears the deck and maintains your speed. Schedule it. If the response requires research or deep thought, schedule a specific time later in the day for the deep response, perhaps during a batching block. Delegate it. If it is not a 10x task and can be handled by someone else, forward it immediately. Delete it. If it's irrelevant or spam, delete it immediately. The critical element here is that you never touch an email or message twice. You decide the fate of that message the moment you open it, eliminating the constant mental tax of things left undone. This immediate processing builds an incredibly efficient workflow and solidifies the habit of instant action. The unstoppable flow is achieved when your environment, your triggers, and your scheduled time all align to reinforce immediate, fast execution. You stop using willpower and start using a system. By consistently employing the 3-2-1 rule to start, scheduling the Power Hour to drive 10x priorities, and enforcing the zero-delay approach to communication, you make the urgent mindset a permanent, powerful part of who you are. Chapter 7. The Focus Filter. Eliminating the irrelevant. The most important truth about speed in the 10x life is this: you cannot achieve maximum speed while dragging maximum weight. You could have the fastest engine in the world, but if your carriage is loaded down with rocks, your overall movement will be sluggish. In life and business, those rocks are the irrelevant tasks, the distractions, the low-value work, the unnecessary busy work that makes you feel productive without actually advancing your goals. Your ability to reach 10x results is determined by 2 qualities: the speed with which you execute the relevant, the ruthlessness with which you eliminate the irrelevant. If you are fast on the wrong things, you simply get to the wrong destination faster. This chapter is about building your focus filter to ensure that your unstoppable urgency is aimed at the vital few activities that generate 80% of your results. The Pareto Principle, the law of the vital few. This concept is essential to the urgency mindset. The Pareto Principle, often called the 80-20 rule, states that 80% of your results come from only 20% of your efforts. This is a fundamental law of efficiency, and it applies everywhere. 80% of your wealth comes from 20% of your financial decisions. 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers or products. 80% of your impact comes from 20% of the tasks on your to-do list. The tragedy of the average person is that they spend 80% of their time on the trivial many. The 80% of low-impact tasks that feel easy, familiar, or comfortable. They are trapped in tasks that generate 20% of the results, while the few, difficult, high-impact actions get delayed. The urgency solution. Focus on the 20% now. To become truly unstoppable, you must use the 80-20 rule as your focus filter. Before you initiate any action, using your 3-2-1 rule, you must ask one crucial, high-impact question. If I could only complete one task today, which one would generate the highest possible value toward my 10x goals? This forces you to identify the A1 priority, the most vital task of the day. Once identified, you apply the full force of your urgency, speed, and focus to that task, and that task alone, until it is complete or until your scheduled time is up, like your power hour. Never start a low-value task when a high-value task remains undone. The deletion mindset. Ruthless elimination. The 80-20 rule gives you permission to be ruthless. If a task does not contribute to your 20% of high-impact activities, it must be delegated or, preferably, eliminated. You have to develop a deletion mindset, a practice of saying a forceful no to the unnecessary. Every yes to an irrelevant task is a no to your 10x life. Here are the categories of irrelevant tasks you must filter out. The distraction tasks. These are tasks that offer an immediate emotional reward but zero long-term value. For example, mindlessly browsing news, organizing your office supplies, endlessly tweaking a website color scheme after it's functional. Action. 3, 2, 1. Delete or block. These are energy leaks that kill your momentum. The obligation tasks. These are tasks you perform simply because someone asked you to, or because you have always done them. They do not leverage your unique strengths and do not drive your core results. Action. 3, 2, 1. Delegate or negotiate. If someone else can do it 80% as well as you can, let them do it. Your time is too valuable for tasks that can be outsourced or simply ignored without catastrophic consequence. The preparation trap tasks. These are tasks where you are constantly gathering information, reading one more book, or attending one more introductory webinar instead of launching your project. Preparation is important, but excessive preparation is just glorified procrastination. Action. 3, 2, 1. Launch the minimum viable action. Stop preparing and start performing. The irrelevance audit. To make elimination a habit, conduct a weekly irrelevance audit. Take a look at your calendar and your to-do list for the past week, and categorize everything you spent time on. Category 1. 20% high-impact actions. These tasks move the needle toward your 10x goals. Category 2. 80% low-impact actions. These tasks kept you busy but created little long-term value. The goal is to analyze Category 2. For every item in that list, ask yourself, could this have been deleted? Could it have been delegated? If the answer is yes, you create a rule to ensure that you never waste your urgency on that irrelevant task again. The greatest advantage in life and career is the clarity to know what to ignore. By applying the focus filter of the 80-20 rule and embracing a ruthless deletion mindset, you ensure that the immense momentum you have built is channeled into the few actions that truly matter. You are not just moving fast. You are moving only on the critical path to your greatest success. Chapter 8. Your Unstoppable Future. The 10x Life Activated. You have reached the final chapter. But this is not an ending. This is the true beginning of your 10x life. We started this journey by confronting the 10x regret, the agonizing awareness of the life, wealth, and impact that was lost simply by waiting. That feeling is now your fuel. We dismantled the biggest lie, proving that motivation follows action, not the other way around. We replaced the comfortable delusion of tomorrow's tyranny with the decisive power of now. You now possess the tools of the unstoppable. The 3-2-1 rule for instant activation, the power hour for daily momentum, and the focus filter of the 80-20 rule for ruthless prioritization. The question now is, what are you going to do with this power? The difference between people who listen to a book like this and those who actually live a 10x life is not intelligence, opportunity, or luck. It is simply the non-negotiable commitment to speed and urgency, every single day. The velocity of success. Think of your life as a rocket launch. It takes immense, focused energy to overcome gravity and achieve escape velocity. Once that velocity is reached, the journey becomes infinitely easier, less constrained, and faster. Your initial commitment to urgency, making rapid decisions, executing your SPA immediately, and crushing Parkinson's law with harsh deadlines, is the intense burst of fuel needed for liftoff. Once you achieve escape velocity, you enter the unstoppable flow state. In this state, progress compounds instantly. Every small win, SPA, fuels the next, MVA. Anxiety is replaced by clarity. Because you are always acting, your mind is focused on execution, not on the guilt of delay. Opportunities appear to find you. Your constant motion and visibility attract new connections, resources, and unexpected doors. The unstoppable flow is where your 10x life resides. This life is not 10 times harder than your current life. It is simply 10 times faster in its execution, and therefore, 10 times more rewarding. The daily commitment. Zero weight. Your final task is to make a radical, one-time commitment to the principle of zero weight. This commitment applies to everything that crosses your path. When you know what to do, you do it immediately. No, I'll do it after coffee, or let me just check social media first. When a small friction point appears, you eliminate it immediately. Don't let a misplaced file or an unanswered email sit for 5 minutes. When you are asked for a decision, you default to the 70% rule and decide immediately. Indecision is a delay, and delay is the thief of your momentum. $3, 2, 1, launch.